decided just a little while ago that I was going to make butternut squash stew, and I'm kind of winging it, but the reason I decided to do it is because I came home from the store with a big butternut squash, and I wanted to bake half of it just to serve as a vegetable with cinnamon, and I thought it would be too much if I baked the whole thing, so I cut it in half and baked the one half, but took the other half and I just diced the butternut squash up into almost like the size of cheese cubes. And I'm going to make a stew with butternut squash, onions, tomatoes, lentils, Morningstar crumbles for my fake meat, and garlic, a bouillon cube, you can use whichever kind you like, vegetarian or not, and I think that's it. I'm winging it, so I didn't know I was going to make it, so I'm going to have to use the bouillon cube for my broth, because that's really all I have. And the butternut squash needs to simmer alone first. It's going to take a lot longer to cook, and it's the bulk of this stew and the bulk of the calories. So about 155 of the calories are just the butternut squash. So I'm going to have to simmer fry this a little bit first. And I will do so with garlic. Here's the simmer fry. It's a hefty pot. And when I go to cook it and use the bouillon cube, I'm going to start with 2 cups of water. And the thing about butternut squash is that it's full of nutrients and less so in calories, so it's a wonderful substitute for a potato, especially a white potato. Sweet potatoes are great with nutrients also, but they have more calories than the butternut squash. So the squash will make it, does have some starch to it, and will make it a thick stew in time. So after that simmers, I don't know, maybe I'll let that cook 5 minutes, and then I will add the onions for another 5 minutes, and then I might add all the broth and the tomatoes and the crumbles and let it simmer at least for 30 minutes. And at the very end, I will add the lentils because I've already cooked them completely. So the main thing is that you cook the butternut squash by itself first. Then you add the onions and let those cook a little bit longer as well. And then you add things that don't take as long to cook, like tomatoes and the Morningstar crumbles, with the bouillon, and you let it simmer for a good 30 minutes. And then you add your lentils. But just keep a check on it, because at the end, you want the butternut squash to be soft. You just stick a fork right through it, even falling apart, and that the consistency of the stew is thick, just like it would be if it were a beef stew. We'll turn the video camera back on and try to add these together after a while then. Okay, the butternut squash stew is finished. It is nice and creamy now. If I do it again, I would add green peppers because it's not colorful enough, in my opinion. I'd like you to be able to see it. Not sure if I can show it to you. Me and for a close-up. Need a glass bowl. So we have butternut squash and lentils and onions and tomato. Nice and it's relatively thick. So it's a nice stew. And I'll be able to divide it into serving sizes, but all told, it has about 350 calories for the stew. I think I'll divide it out later, but it smells good too. Okay, the spaghetti squash parmesan is finished, and I forgot that I was going to add some vegetarian meatballs to it. So I did, after I turned the video off. I put them on top and baked it. I think it looks wonderful. So I will divide this in two, and it'll be about 95 calories each.